What is up, guys? Welcome down to another episode of Progress Not Perfect. We are on a journey of building a community of like-minded individuals who are obsessed with becoming the best version of themselves. Now, on our previous episode of Let's Talk Stress, we discussed what exactly stress is at a biological level, because it is important for us to understand what exactly stress is, what is going on inside of our body, how stress is caused, before we actually try or attempt to tackle the issue of stress. And trust me when I tell you, and I'll explain exactly how, we can use stress to our advantage. Stress is necessary for growth. If we want to grow, if you want to become better, if you want to take our lives to the next level, we need stress, and I'll tell you why, what exactly, which elements of stress are important, so on and so forth. Now, in our previous episode, we spoke about what stress is, and we also spoke about the 6 different elements that add up to the total stress or the total load of stress that we feel. Now, this total load of stress is known as the allostatic load. So from this point forward, if I say allostatic load, I'm not trying to be cool. I'm just using that word because it's easy and we don't have to keep repeating these elements that we discussed in the previous video. But just for your benefit, I'll give a quick reminder. So we covered that the different elements, the 6 different elements that add up to the total stress are environmental stress, mental stress, physical stress, emotional stress, existential stress, and social stress. Right? So if you want to get that in-depth understanding of what exactly we spoke about, obviously the best option is to check out the previous video that we did. Now, in today's episode, in today's video, we are going to be talking about 2 different kinds of stress. Essentially, the good stress and the bad stress. Now, good stress is known as eustress and bad stress is known as distress. I know it's funny. Eustress pretty much sounds like the bad stuff, but for whatever reason it isn't, alright? So eustress is the good stuff, the kind of stress that we want, the kind of stress that pushes us to become better, the kind of stress that helps us grow. And then you've got the distress, which is the bad stress, right? This is the one that wears us out. This is the one that makes us overthink. This is the one that makes us feel like we're drained, we have no energy, like we just don't want to go on, so on and so forth. So then the question is, how do you identify, right? How do you identify what is eustress and what is distress? Because on this channel, we always say it's important to educate ourselves, right? Before we empower ourselves, we need to educate ourselves. We need to understand, because there's no point in us asking questions like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I control this? Why can't I change this? Because those questions don't really lead anywhere. But rather we try to understand what exactly is happening. What exactly is happening biologically, what's happening inside of me, and what can I do to alter this to my advantage, right? So let's dive into how we identify what exactly the good stuff is and the bad stuff is when it comes to stress. Now, the 3 key areas that we need to look at to define if something is, eustress or distress is, number 1, how long does the stress last? Right? How long does the stress last? Number 2, how intense is the stress? And number 3, how well, how fast, how long does it take for us to recover from the particular stress, right? So essentially, by looking at these 3 elements, we can identify if a particular stress in our lives is something that is good for us, which is good stress, something that we need, or bad stress, something that we need to mitigate or avoid. Now, typically, bad stress is long lasting. It is too intense, and we often don't really recover from it, right? And I'll give you an example. Say you work out for 8 hours a day. Pretty intense, right? 8 hours a day. So what happens? Now, we know that we need to stress our body. We need to stress our muscles for us to progress. Yes, temporarily there's a setback. You have damaged muscles, reduced energy levels, so on and so forth. But after a little while, after a little bit of recovery period, when we invest in our recovery, in our rest, we see that we actually grow. The next time, we can perform at a higher level. right? And this spills into other areas of our life where we're able to have a higher level of energy, and we're not only able to perform better at the gym or at a particular sport or at training, but even at work, even at home, all right? We're even better at relaxing, okay? So a bad stress is something that lasts for too long. It occurs too often. It's too intense, okay? It's too intense, and we often don't really recover from it. That is what you call distress. Say, for example, you have a toxic person in your life, somebody that you see regularly, okay? A toxic person, always speaking negative, right? Always saying that you can't do it, always saying that it's not going to work out, okay? And always talking about the negatives, about nothing is ever going to work out, right? Just imagine the stress that that's going to cause. That person is around you all day long, so it's long lasting, right? It's very intense because they never stop, and it pours into every element of your life, and you never really recover from it because you're not really having enough downtime, right? Now, how we should deal with people like that, I'll cover on a different video, but that is in a sense an example of something that is in the category of distress, which is essentially bad stress that we want to avoid. Now we move on to the good stuff, which is eustress, right? I know, eustress, bit of a contradictory name, but eustress is stress that doesn't last for long. It's not overly intense, right? And we can recover from it. So again, on the first example, a workout. Say you work out for an hour, okay? But that's not too long. From 24 hours, you're just working 1 hour, right? So 1 hour of a workout, and it's not too intense in the sense that you're not doing like 10 different power training exercises, 50 different lower body exercises, 30 different upper body exercises. All right, so it's like 3 to 4 lower body exercises, 3 to 4 upper body exercises, just covering the essentials, but a good level of intensity that challenges you, that helps you grow, move the needle of progress. All right, and you have adequate time to recover. So you work out today 1 hour in the morning, and then you've got another 23 hours till tomorrow for you to do whatever and recover. So that is an example of something that is good stress. Or, for example, you have a challenging boss. Somebody here says, hey man, the way you're going, you're not going to hit your target. You really need to pull your socks up, and you really need to put your head down and get working. Okay, now I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's stress, my boss is breathing down my throat. Well, not really, right? Because sometimes we need that push, right? We need that push. And this is where we need to carefully identify what the good stuff is and what the bad stuff is. Now, if it is a boss who's constantly breathing down your throat, constantly saying you'll never achieve it, you can't do it, doesn't support you, that's definitely falling in the category of distress. But it would fall in the category of eustress if it is stress that is enough to motivate you, to push you, to keep you on your feet. All right, and to just keep pushing you just enough, okay, not overly over the top, but just enough to help you stay sort of, on your feet and off your seat as and when it is needed. So there you go, guys. That is an understanding of what exactly distress is, which is the bad stress, and of course, eustress, which is the good stuff, the stuff we want and the stuff that we hope we have a little bit more of in our lives, because that's the stuff that's gonna help us grow. Now, this last part of the video is super important. This is kind of like a superpower, and that's perspective. I know I've covered this before. Perspective is super important when it comes to anything, and turns out, even for stress, perspective can be a superpower, because a lot of these elements that we talk about, to a great extent, are beyond our control. To a great extent, they are beyond our control. It depends on the environment that we are in, and yes, I agree, we can control our environments, we can choose who we associate, but only so much. Say, for example, you work in a company that has a majority of toxic people. Yes, you have the option of leaving, but at the same time, it may not be viable to just quit your job right now. So sometimes perspective can be your best friend. Now, the Journal of the American Medical Association found that mindful exercise and mindful relaxation techniques, stuff like meditation, has proven to relieve chronic back pain, right? Chronic back pain more than non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, right? Which essentially means that people who had the right perspective of the stress that they were going through were better able to manage the chronic back pain that was being caused as a result of stress. Now, research has also shown that even an athlete who goes through an injury with positive perspective is able to recover faster than someone who goes through an injury with a negative perspective. Now, why am I talking about injuries? Because injuries are also an example of stress, right? We overstress a particular component of our body and we damage it or we injure it, right? And what the research showed is that people who look at it as, you know what, it's a part of the game, right? It's a part of life. This happens. I just need to focus on my recovery now, dedicate myself towards it, and I'll be fine soon. Versus people who thought, oh no, I'm injured, I'm gonna ruin my game, I'm gonna be dropped from the team, I may never be able to perform the same, I'll never be okay again. Now those two people, who do you think recovered fast? Right? Who do you think recovered fast? Now, forgetting the fact that, of course, the person who has positive perspective will be more action driven and will actually be doing things that helps them recover. Even biologically, at a neural level, we are now understanding that what we think can affect how our body works, right? And that's why perspective is so important. Sometimes the stress that we go through can only be managed or mitigated, reduced or avoided only so much. And this is where perspective comes in. This is where perspective is our best friend or our superpower, if I may, right? So I'll end this video on that, guys, but on our next episode, don't worry, we're going to talk about techniques that we can use, why recovery is important, and a couple of other areas which is actually going to be beneficial in terms of empowering you guys to start taking control. Because we've understood what stress is, we've understood what causes stress, we've understood that there are two types of stress, one that we need to try to get rid of, mitigate, or manage. But now, what do we do? All right, I mean, you're probably thinking, all right, this is cool, man. You've been telling us so much about, stress, but now what do we do? How do we move forward? How do we accelerate our recovery? Don't worry, that's coming up on the next episode. And before you close this video, a very humble request, because guys, I always say that the only way we truly learn something is if we teach it to someone else. So go on, teach this to somebody you love, somebody who is going through a lot of stress in their life, or somebody who just wants to take their life to the next level. I always tell you guys, I'm not a guru, I'm not some kind of expert, but I'm somebody who is deeply passionate about improving human performance, because I think that progress is one of the most, or if not the single most important thing when it comes to being happy and being content, because progress is the only thing that's really possible. Perfection is just an idealistic state, but progress is very real. No matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter your status, your circumstances, progress is possible. And that is why Progress Not Perfect is the title of our show, and that's why I'm so passionate and obsessed with this whole topic. But I am nothing without the support that you guys give. So while I thank all of you, I encourage all of you to share this. Let's make this stuff go viral, because it is created with the sole purpose of helping each other, right? And I always encourage you guys, leave it down in the comments. If there's something you want to talk about, if there's something you want to know, I am here to serve you guys. That is it, guys, and until next time, much love.